example, some would say that the Imam, the reason behind the rise of the Imam is that of a political reason. He was seeking to take the rulership and become the ruler of the Muslims, for he had the right to do so based on the treaty of his brother Imam al-Hassan. The treaty, one of the conditions that Imam al-Hassan had with Muawiyah was that if Muawiyah was to pass away, then the rulership is to be passed to Al-Hassan. And if Al-Hassan was not alive, then the rulership would be passed to Al-Hussein alayhi salam. So, according to the treaty, which was public and everyone was aware of it, Imam al-Hussein had the right to be the ruler of the Muslims. And because he had this right, so he wanted to seek this right and rise against the one who took the Khilafah, the rulership from him. And therefore, the main reason and purpose behind him rising against the Khalifa of his time was because he was seeking his right. However, such analysis usually is not complete, for we believe that all of our Imams had the right to become the Khalifa of their time, not only Imam al-Hussein. For Imam Ali had the right to be the Khalifa in the beginning of the time after Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and similarly with Imam al-Hassan, and similarly with Imam Zain al-Abidin later, and so on. And in fact, many people came to Imam Zain al-Abidin and told him that we will be with you to fight against the Umayyad Khilafah. Because now, after they saw the massacres that they did, whether it be the killing of Imam al-Hussein or the massacre they did in Medina or the demolition of Kaaba, they were all under the rulership of Yazid. So when the Muslims saw Yazid like that, they came to Imam al-Sajjad and they told him, we will be with you, let's rise against the Umayyads and you become our leader. Imam al-Sajjad refused. And the same thing happened with many Imams. But we find that even though they had the right to be the Khalifa, they refused to do so, to rise against the Khalifa of their time. So to analyze the movement of Imam al-Hussein and make it purely political is not usually accurate. Other analyses would mention that the main motive behind the movement of Imam al-Hussein was the letters of the people of Kufa. For he had the right, the people of Kufa would send him the letters, would show his support towards the Imam. The Imam clearly sees that the Khilafah is going downwards. Therefore, he decided to rise against the Khilafah because he found that there is support from the people of Kufa. So he moved towards Iraq so that he can go towards the people of Kufa, and then all together they can rise against the Khalifa, rise against Yazid. However, we will show why this specific analysis is also not accurate. Why the main motive of the Imam rising is actually not the letters of the people of Kufa. We will mention why. The main motive, irrespective of how we view the movement of Imam al-Hussein, the main motive is the first letter, the first thing that he wrote down that described the motive of his movement. The thing that we began the majlis with. Imam, when he was in Medina, before he leaves toward Mecca, Imam, when he left to Mecca, it was on the 27th of Rajab. 27th of Rajab, all the way to Ashura, Muharram. So a few months, about 5 months, 6 months before Ashura. He was in Medina and he decided to leave Medina towards Mecca. When he left Medina, it wasn't purely because he wanted to go for Hajj and he went to Mecca. No, he was clear why he was leaving Medina. He wrote a letter, a will, a wasiyah to his brother Muhammad ibn al-Hanafiyyah. What did he write to Muhammad ibn al-Hanafiyyah? He wrote to him a will where he said, from al-Husayn ibn Ali to Muhammad, that is known as al-Hanafiyyah. Then he would begin his letter by witnessing that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is our Lord, that Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa is our messenger, that the Quran is the truth, that the message of the Prophet is the truth, that there will be day of judgment, so on and so forth. So he was bearing witness, he was witnessing of the right beliefs. This was the beginning of the will, where he listed the right beliefs. After that, after listing the right beliefs, to show that he is on the true path, What did Imam al-Hussein write to his brother, Muhammad ibn al-Hanafiyyah? He would write to him, إني لم أخرج أشرا ولا بطرا ولا مفسدا ولا ظالما. I did not rise to cause havoc or to cause chaos. I did not rise to cause oppression or to cause corruption. وإنما خرجت لطلب الإصلاح. Rather, إنما, the word إنما in Arabic means exclusivity. The exclusive reason that made me rise is لطلب الإصلاح في أمة جدي, to seek to revive the spirit of the nation of my grandfather Rasulullah. This was the main reason that the Imam showed. And he would describe this reason by saying أريد أن أأمر بالمعروف. I want to enjoin good, وأنهى عن المنكر, and forbid that which is evil. Then the Imam would say, and I want to take the footsteps of my grandfather Rasulullah and my father Amir al-Mu'mineen. So the Imam here is showing the main purpose of his movement. Now, whether you want to see it political or no, this is the main purpose. Then you can analyze it however you want. Let's understand this will. And this will wasn't purely for Muhammad ibn al-Hanafiyyah. It was a public statement. Why is it the case? Because the Imam would seal this will that he wrote to his brother. And when the Imam would seal it, it means that, oh Muhammad, anyone who would ask you about me and why did I leave Medina, show them this letter. And this is something that I wrote. This is the main purpose. One thing to keep in mind is, when did the Imam write? We said he left Medina 27th of Rajab. So he wrote this letter any time before the 27th of Rajab. When did the letters of the Kufans reach to the Imam? The first batch, the Kufans sent 3 batches of letters to the Imam. The first batch of the letters arrived to the Imam on the 10th of Shahr Ramadan. He was in Mecca. So we see that the main motive, the Imam, when he was in Medina, he said, my main purpose is to seek reform, is to revive the spirit of my grandfather's nation. So he moved towards Mecca, and then he knew that he was going towards Iraq, even before the letters of the people of Kufa. In fact, he knew the nature of the people of Kufa anyways. So that wasn't the main drive, the main motive for the Imam to move. So what is it? What does it mean when he says, I want to revive the spirit of my grandfather Rasulullah? Let's understand this statement so we can understand what condition did the Imam live through that made him rise, other than the other Imams. To understand the word Islah, the word reviving the spirit, we say that, socially speaking, there is 2 concepts. One concept is change. Usually I see corruption in the society I live in, and I want to change the whole system, irrespective of the previous system. For example, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when he would come to Mecca and begin his message, begin his project in Mecca, he did not look into what was the previous acts of the Meccans. He wanted to cause change and establish a new society. This change, socially, usually is referred as revolution. Revolution is to change a certain system in a way that I do not care about how was it before my change. This is revolution. As for the Imam, he used the word Islah. Islah is to reform, to revive. What does it mean? It means that there was something that was established, it went off track, and he wants to fix it. Islah comes from the word fixing. It means to fix. So something went off track, and he wants to bring it back. So the Imam didn't want to completely change everything, to establish a new concept. No, there was established system by the Prophet. It went off track because of the number of the leaders who became the leaders of the Muslims. The Imam, when he saw the situation like that, he decided to bring things back. Because when they came to the Imam, telling the Imam to seek to pay allegiance to Yazid, what was the answer of the Imam? He said, we are the household of the Prophet, and we have the prophethood, and the Malaika were revealed upon us would descend towards us, then he would describe Yazid. So he described their state, then he would describe Yazid. He would say, وَيَزِيد رَجُل, a man who is fajr, who commits indecent acts publicly, who is a hypocrite, who drinks alcohol, and who kills the innocent souls. So Yazid is a kind of ruler who claimed to be the ruler of the Muslims, yet he would commit indecent act publicly. This is a situation no other imam was put into. All the other imams, yes, the leaders, the khulafa, they did wrong acts, but they were careful. They were aware that the people see them as the ruler of the Muslims. They wouldn't commit things publicly. But Yazid, he didn't care. He would commit things publicly. Then the imam, after describing their state and the state of Yazid, he would say, مثلي لا يبايع مثله. Someone like me wouldn't pay allegiance to someone like him. So this is the state that the imam was in. Now the imam, as we mentioned, he wants to fix something. It's not a revolution. The word revolution is not accurate when we say Hussein's revolution. It's a movement. In Arabic, we can say nahda. But to say revolution is change. The imam did not want to change. He said islah. He wants to fix, revive something. So what is it that the imam wanted to revive? What was the state of the Muslims that the imam wanted to fix and revive? To understand that, we need to look at the state of the Umayyads. The imam, he compared between his state and the state of Yazid. So we see that there is the Muhammadi paradigm, the Muhammadi way of running things, and then there is the Umayyad way of running things. The Umayyads, when they took power, they didn't really care about the religious side of the power. They wanted power, rule. They didn't even believe in the message of Islam. And there are many narrations and many historical incidents that prove so. I'll give you a few of them. One of the incidents, Yazid would say that لعبت هاشم بالملك. So if we look at the history between the Hashemites and the Umayyads, they go back to one grandfather. There is a grandfather called Abd Munaf. Abd Munaf had many children. Of them was Abd Shams and was Hashim. Hashim is the grandfather of the Hashemites and the Prophet. Abd Shams was the father of Umayyah. And Umayyah is the grandfather of the Umayyads. Umayyah, his son was Abu Sufyan Muawiyah, Muawiyah, Yazid, so on and so forth. So from the times, Abd Shams didn't like Hashim. And then this hatred would carry on up towards all of the generations. So Yazid, what did he say? He said, لعبت هاشم بالملك فلا خبر جاء ولا وحي نزل. He would say, Hashim, the Hashemites played around with power. There is no message that was revealed upon the Prophet, and there was no angels that revealed things to him, that descended towards him. Meaning, Yazid did not even believe that there is a message, there is revelation to the Prophet. He thought the Prophet did all of this to gain power. So when he saw that the Prophet gained power, they played around with power. So for them, it was a game of power. It wasn't a game of religion. Another incident was with Muawiyah. Now, this incident with Yazid, another incident with Muawiyah. Muawiyah had one of the people who was close to Muawiyah was Abu al-Mughira. Abu al-Mughira once came back home. His son so his dad was not comfortable. He said, "Oh, Dad, what happened today? You don't seem all right today." He said, "I heard something today that made me feel really bad." So he asked him what happened. He said, "I was with Muawiyah, and I told him, now that you have power, oh Muawiyah, now that you have power, why don't you fix the relation with the Hashemites? That will be good for you. The power is with you. Why do you keep this tension between you and the Hashemites? Fix the relation. Publicly, you will seem to be the one who fixed this relationship, and people will adore you even more." Muawiyah rejected the idea. And he explained why did he reject the idea. He said, and he named them one by one. He said, when the first came and ruled the Muslims. When he died, nobody remembers his name. Then the second came, and he became the Khalifa, and he died, and nobody remembers his name anymore. Then the third, and he would refer to the third as their cousin, because Uthman was related to Muawiyah. He said, and the third came, our cousin the third came, and he passed away, and now nobody remembers him. Yet, when Muhammad ruled and died, until today, 5 times a day, we say, Ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah. So, he said, when he mentioned this, after that, he said, Dafnan Dafna. I want to bury this name. I want to bury this name under the ground. This shows how the Umayyads viewed the Prophet. There was a hatred. So what was the Umayyad paradigm that the Imam wanted to fix? What happened to the society when the Umayyads became in power? I'll mention a few of the points. The first point is, in Islam, the Muhammadi paradigm, the Muhammadi way of running things, there is no difference between Arabs and non-Arabs, between certain tribes. We are all equal. And the Quran mentions the only difference amongst us is taqwa. Taqwa is what differs us and makes us better than others. Apart from that, we are all equal. And some narrations, the Prophet would describe us to be all the tooth of the comb. So you know how the comb, all of the tooth of the comb are equal, the comb that we brush our hair with. So we are all equal, in other words. So we find many narrations that the Prophet and the verses in the Quran that show that we are all equal. As for the Umayyads, this wasn't the case. There was a lot of privilege to certain tribes that were close to Muawiyah. They would get a bigger share of the treasury. They would get certain rights that others would not get. And those who opposed Muawiyah would get sanctions, so on and so forth. And we see that today. So you see, this is the Umayyad way of running things. This is the first thing, which is to separate between people. It's a form of sectarianism or racism or whatever you want to call it. Islam doesn't view things like that. So this is one of the points. The other point of the Umayyad paradigm was to ruin the image of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and his holy household. This was something important for them. As we mentioned, there is a hatred. This is why in the Umayyad era, there was a lot of narrations that were fabricated. In fact, many times we read a certain narration, especially in the other school of thought, that we see do not befit the character of Rasulullah. Even the one who is respectful in our community wouldn't commit such acts. They would describe such acts for the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, which shows that they wanted to ruin his image. 99% of the times when you read a narration, especially in the other school of thought, that you think Rasulullah wouldn't do this, it's 99% chance it's an Umayyad fabrication. I'll give you some of the examples, and forgive me for providing such examples, but this is just to give you the idea. One of the examples, they would portray Rasulullah in a way that he felt in certain instances, he felt suicidal. وَالْعِيَاذُ بِاللَّهِ. And Ajib, how can Rasulullah feel suicidal? Those who are respectful in our community and rational, we can't imagine them to feel suicidal in the first place. How can Rasulullah do so? In other instances, some narrations would indicate that Rasulullah had his clothing up where his knees was showing, and his wife is next to him. And then Umar would enter the room, Rasulullah would stay sitting the same way. He wouldn't change his position. Then Abu Bakr would enter, again he wouldn't change his position. Then Uthman would enter, the relative. Then Rasulullah will feel shy. He says, Uthman, he feels shy. I need to change my position. This is another narration, for example. Subhanallah, how can Rasulullah act like this? Another narration, and please forgive me for mentioning these, but this is just to show you the picture. Another narration, they would picture Rasulullah that he woke up for Fajr very tired in the state of, forgive me for saying it, in the state of Janaba. And because he was very tired, he went on and prayed Jama'ah and he forgot to perform ghusl. This is how they pictured Rasulullah. Then after Salah, he remembered, oh, I did not do ghusl. Ajib. How can Rasulullah be someone like that? This is how they pictured Rasulullah. Did they leave Rasulullah alone? No. They went to Amir al-Mu'mineen. How did they treat the name of Amir al-Mu'mineen? It was a compulsory, a policy for the Umayyads to curse Amir al-Mu'mineen in every khutbah. Every Friday sermon, Amir al-Mu'mineen need to be cursed. To the point that when Amir al-Mu'mineen was struck and killed by Ibn Muljib, la'natullah alayh, when the news reached to the people of Sham, who were under the Umayyads, they said, oh, and Ali, he prays? We didn't know that Ali prays. So this is how they viewed Ali. They never imagined Ali to pray in the first place. This is Amir al-Mu'mineen. Now we'll come to Imam al-Hasan alayhi salam. They would view Imam al-Hasan to be a person who always marries and divorces. Marries and divorces. Some of the narrations they have is the Imam married hundreds of wives in his life and divorced all of them. When did he have the time in the first place? So again, it's a systematic approach to ruin the image of Rasulullah and his progeny. This is what Muawiyah meant by defna, to bury the name of Rasulullah. It was a systematic approach. One through fabricating narrations. Other is they had a media tool. You know how today we have Hollywood through movies. They had a person where we would call them in modern days hakawati, a person who would give stories. So the Umayyads used to sit in cafes, for example, and somebody who would give out stories would sit down. They would just listen to that person. And this person, obviously, when he gives out those stories, he would make up many of them and fabricate many to ruin the image of Ahlul Bayt. So this was one way they would do so. So see, they had many tools to ruin the image of Rasulullah. This was another factor of the Umayyad paradigm. What's another factor? Another factor of the Umayyad paradigm was to promote the idea of individualism. Because the community, when they get together, of course, they will be stronger than the authority. So they didn't want that. They promoted the idea of individualism to the point that they would quote certain verses and use them as an evidence for you to only care about yourself, don't care about others. They would say, for example, يَا أَيُّهَا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا عَلَيْكُمْ أَنفُسَكُمْ لَا يَضُرُّكُمْ مَنْ ضَلَّ. They would quote this verse. O believers, take care of yourselves. Those who become deviant does not harm you. So they would quote such verses, use them out of their context, and promote the idea of take care of yourself. Don't care about others. And of course, when they promote such idea, Amr bil Ma'ruf gets killed, Nahi an al-Munkar gets killed, to enjoin good and forbid evil. Both of these concepts get killed. And this is the reason we find in the letter of Imam Hussein that we began the majlis with. What did he say after that he wants to revive the spirit of the nation of Rasulullah? He said, I want to enjoin good, أريد أن أأمر بالمعروف وأنهى عن المنكر, and forbid that which is evil. So again, this is the difference. The Muhammadi paradigm, the idea of Amr bil Ma'ruf, Nahi an al-Munkar, the idea of a community. The Umayyad paradigm, individualism, you and yourself. And unfortunately, we are falling into this idea nowadays, the idea of individualism. And it's very important to gather in such gatherings, to be a community. See our brothers, do they need any help? Can we provide a helping hand if any of us is in need? This way we fight this idea of individualism. This idea goes well hand in hand with the Umayyad paradigm. And we want to be amongst the Muhammadi paradigm, the Muhammadi way of life. So this is another point of the Umayyad paradigm. Another point is they would ruin the belief system of the believers by introducing certain beliefs that are well suited with the governance. One of the examples is the idea of qada and qadar, the idea of predestination. And this idea is still prevalent nowadays. For anything that happens, anyone that comes and tells Muawiyah, why did you do so and so? He would say, Allah wrote this. It's written. It's predestined. It's as if there is no free choice. Everything is predestined. For example, Hijr ibn Adi. Hijr ibn Adi was a great companion. And the reason of his death was Muawiyah. And the people saw that the reason of the killing of Hajr ibn Adi was he was oppressed by being killed by Muawiyah, to the point that even Sunni scholars would say that Hajr ibn Adi was killed out of oppression, except very few that do not say so. The majority of Islamic scholars would say Hajr ibn Adi was killed out of oppression from Muawiyah. When they came to Muawiyah and they told him, why did you kill him? He said, Allah wrote so. It's written. Qada wa qadar. We can't control it. This is it. And this idea, we find it even in Yazid when he spoke to Imam al-Sajjad. When Imam al-Sajjad was in the court of Yazid, what did Yazid say? يُؤْتِ الْمُلْكَ مَنْ يَشَاءُ وَيَنْزِعُ الْمُلْكَ مِمَّنْ يَشَاءُ. He gives the crown to whoever he wants, and he takes away the crown from whoever he wants. Again, they would throw everything, and they say what Allah wrote. This is written. This is predestined. And this idea we also find today, by the way. Sometimes one of us, for example, would get married. This marriage is not successful. Few months later, divorce. After the divorce, we say, Qada wa qadar. Allah has written this for me. It's as if you did not make the wrong decision. Sometimes we also make wrong decisions, so we need to recalculate our decision making. To say everything is qada qadar, of course we believe in qada qadar. We believe things are written. But we believe there are things that are written that are not changeable. We believe things that are written that can be changeable. Not everything is written and that's it, that cannot be changed. This is not our belief. So sometimes we also have to recalculate our decisions and not just say qada or qadar. So again, this is one of the Umayyad tools, one of the Umayyad things to do is to change the beliefs of the people so that they don't question the authority. Any wrong action by the authority, Allah has written so. It's not our decision. That's it. So you see, these are the things that the Imam wanted to fix. The Muhammadi paradigm was against all of these. The Umayyad paradigm ruined all of these things. They tried to play with the beliefs of the people. So this is what the Imam meant by إِنَّمَا خَرَجْتُ لِطَلَبِ الْإِصْلَاحِ. The sole reason, the exclusive reason that made me rise is to revive the spirit of my grandfather's nation. This is the main purpose. This is the main reason. He was in a situation, in a condition no other Imam was put into. No other Imam was put into a condition where the rulers are reached such form of hypocrisy, such form of committing indecent acts publicly. This is the main push for the Imam to move. As for the idea that the main motive was the people of Kufa, we mentioned that, of course, this wasn't the main reason because the letters arrived way after the Imam wrote this will to his brother. Furthermore, we can't really blame only the people of Kufa. Yes, we blame them. But when the Imam wrote this and he said, I am rising, or I rise exclusively to revive the nation of my grandfather. What did he say at the end of this letter? He said, he who follows me, then he followed the truth. And he who doesn't follow me, then Allah will judge between us on the day of judgment. When did he say it? He said it in Mecca. So I ask a question, where were the people of Mecca? Why did no one follow Imam Hussein? We're only few members. So people of Mecca are to blame as well. Sorry, Medina. This was in Medina. Then the Imam, few months in Mecca, in Hajj. Same thing. Many times he mentioned that he's going to go towards Kufa, he was going to rise, and only few members followed him. So again, the people of Mecca are to blame. So yes, people of Kufa are to blame extra because of the letters. And many of them were imprisoned and couldn't actually support the Imam. But for those who were able, they are to blame, of course. They have extra blame. But we shouldn't forget about the others. So it was an issue of the entire Islamic nation. It wasn't an issue of only Kufa and Sham and so on. The entire Islamic nation was living a form of, it was dying. And it was going off track. And the Imam wanted to bring it back on track. So was the Imam successful? This is the main question. After the Imam being killed, and his family members and his companions, of course, in the rules of the battlefield, the Imam was killed at the end of the day. So how was the Imam successful? Of course, the story of the Imam and him fighting oppression, this is something that we stand by. But when we analyze the history and see what effect did the killing of the Imam play, we see number one, it made people wake up. Because when the captives were taken towards Sham, and the people of Sham were making fun of them, not realizing who they are. After the speech of Sayyidah Zainab, the speech of Imam al-Sajjad, people started to wake up. And this was the beginning of the downfall of the Umayyads. So the blood of the Imam played a role. Furthermore, the blood of the Imam played a big role in separating between the religious authority and the political authority. Because before the killing of Imam al-Hussein, people used to refer to one Khalifa. He was the religious authority, the political authority, so people refer to him in everything. I have fiqh question, I go to the Khalifa. I have a certain, nowadays, paperwork, I go to the Khalifa. Let's look at the time after Imam al-Hussein. Downfall of the Umayyads, the Abbasids now become the Khulafa, few generations later. We see that no Khalifa from the Abbasid Khulafa is a religious authority. They are all political authority. And they would assign certain scholars to answer fiqh questions, answer religious questions. But the Abbasid rulers themselves were never religious authorities. Why is it the case? It all goes back to the effect of Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam. So even there is results. There is historical results of what happened beyond Imam al-Hussein. And of course, the project of Imam al-Hussein, we believe that our Imams, our beloved Imams, they all are implementing one divine project. One Imam continues the project from the other Imam. So of course, the project of Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam would not have been complete without the role that Imam al-Sajjad played. Because when Imam al-Sajjad stood in the courtyard of Yazid and reminded people of who he is and reminded people of what happened, people started questioning to the point that Yazid cut the Imam and he told the person to recite adhan, so the Imam would stop talking. Then the person would recite adhan. He would say Allahu Akbar, the Imam would respond. He would say Allah is greater than anything else. Then the person would say Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, the Imam would respond. Then he would say Ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah in the adhan, the Imam would stop the muadhin. And he would say to Yazid, Yazid, is Muhammad your grandfather or my grandfather? He would remind people of what happened. People forgot. So on and so forth. So the Imam he continued the role. And of the roles that the Imam continued is to maintain and keep the tragedy alive in the hearts of the believers. He kept on crying and grieving over his father wherever he goes. Whichever market he enters into, he would see a butcher, for example. He would ask the butcher, when you slaughter that sheep, do you provide water to that sheep? The slaughterer said, yes, we do. Then Imam al-Hussein would remind, the Imam al-Sajjad would remind the slaughterer, the butcher. He would tell him, but my father Hussein, when he got slaughtered, he was not provided with water. He was thirsty, 3 days left with no water. So every incident, the Imam would remind the believers of the grief that he went into, especially after the tragedy. For when he was in Sham, or when he was taken captives, when the captives were taken towards Sham, away, so the army of Ibn Sa'ad would take the captives, and he would take the heads of all the companions of Imam al-Hussein and the head of Imam al-Hussein. They would put all of the heads on the spears, and they would leave the land of Karbala. Here, the tribe of Banu Asad, they couldn't make it to the battlefield. So when the tribe of Banu Asad arrived to the land of Karbala, they saw the bodies on the floor with no heads. Here they started crying and weeping, Bani Asad. Then they started looking, where is the body of Imam al-Hussein? They couldn't recognize initially which of these is the body of Imam al-Hussein. Then, my dear brothers and sisters, they would see a body with no head, covered with blood, with many bruises, arrows, swords, knives that cut the body of Hussein, with bones crushed by the horses. They would all shout, Master Hussein, Aywa Hussein. They would try to move the body of the Imam to prepare him for the burial, but they couldn't move his body. Not a single part of the body of Imam they could move. As they were at that state, my dear brothers and sisters, a man with a covered face would arrive. As they saw him, they would step away from the holy bodies. This man would get closer to the bodies. He would get off his horse. He couldn't stand straight. His back was bent. It's as if this man has been through the greatest of tragedies. Here this man would drop himself on the body of Hussein. Whilst crying, he would hug him, kiss him. His face is covered with his tears. What would he say? يقول يا وتهمل عيونه ويحاكيه يا ابوي على الترب لليوم بعدك وكأني به يقول تريبا يا سليبا يا عزيز محمد ولم يأت معي يبكي عليك ويدفنوا. Here they would ask this man, who are you, O stranger? He would uncover his face, and it is none other than Imam Ali Sajjad, Zainul Abidin. Banu Asad here began offering their condolences, one after the other. Then they would offer help to the Imam to bury his father, Imam al-Hussein. Here Imam al-Sajjad would say, I have someone who is helping me out. Please go bury the other bodies. I will bury the body of my father, Hussein. Oh dear believers, then the Imam would put his hand under the body. He would say, Bismillah wa billah wa fi sabilillah wa ala millati rasulillah. Hadha ma wa'ada rasulullah wa sadaqa Allah wa rasuluh. Then the Imam would start descending the body of his father, Imam al-Hussein. My dear believers, I ask you, usually when we bury our beloved ones, we perform ghusl to them. We cover them with kafan. What was the ghusl of the Imam? What kafan did the Imam have? As for the Imam, his ghusl was his own blood. His kafan was the sand of Karbala. Imam al-Sajjad would then place his cheek on Imam Hussein's chest whilst crying. حط خد على نحره وظل يشمه وينادي ودمع عينه يسجمه يا ابو يا خلافك الدنيا مظلمة، ويقول له يا وينتحب ودموعه تسيل، يقول له وينتحب ودموعه تسيل. Here, my dear brothers and sisters, the Imam would then say, طوبى لأرض تضمنت جسدك الشريف يا حسين. أما الدنيا فبعدك مظلمة، وأما الآخرة فبنورك مشرقة، وأما الحزن فسرمد، وأما الليل فمسهد. The Imam would say, blessed is the lion that holds your noble body. As for this world, it is dark after you, O my father Hussein. And as for the hereafter, it is illuminated by your light. As for my grief, it is everlasting, and the night will bring no sleep. My dear brothers and sisters, the Imam would then cover the grave with sand over the body of Abu Abdullah. The Imam would then put his hand on the grave and started writing, this is the grave of Al-Husayn ibn Ali. They killed him عطشان, they killed him غريبا. Then the Imam would ask Banu Asad, is there anybody that is left? They would tell him, yes, my master, there is a body left by itself by the riverside. Oh, my master, that body has no hands. That body is filled with arrows. The Imam would say, take me to that body. So they took the Imam to the body. The Imam would drop his body on his uncle Abbas, and he would cry out, على الدنيا بعدك العفا يا قمر بني هاشم. May the world perish after you, O Uncle Abbas. It's as if Imam al-Sajjad would say, يا عمي خلاف عينك يسرت نعداك. يا عمي خلاف عينك يسرت نعداك. دنهض واشهر سيفك الفتاك. دنهض واشهر سيفك الفتاك. Then, my dear brothers and sisters, the Imam would descend the body of his uncle Al-Abbas to his grave. He would pour the sand all over it. Then he would go back to Sayyida Zainab. Sayyida Zainab would ask Imam Zain al-Abidin, oh, my dear Sajjad, where were you this whole time? Here, Imam Zain al-Abidin would tell Zainab, he would tell her on Zainab, I was next to the body of my father Hussein. I saw the body once again, left all alone on the plains of Karbala. تقل يا عم من الظهر للساع. تقل يا عم من الظهر للساع. تقلي كنت غايب وين. سمعها وزادت أحزانه، دم سالت دموع العين، قال لها غبت عنك يا عمه غبت عنك، رحت يم جسم ابويا حسين، رحت الوالدي شفته، أنا 3 أيام فارقته يا عما ودفنيت جثته، ورضيع بالسهم مفطوم. شو تجاوب زينب شو تقول؟ زينب سمعته وصاحت أنشدك يا علي نشده، يا عما عادة الميت يصير انعتر بخده، يا عما شلون دفنت ابوك وراس ما عنده، سمع عمته وهل دمعته يقلها ومختلف وضعه، يا عم بدال خد حسين صار على الترب نحره، إنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون. وسيعلم الذين ظلموا آل محمد أي منقلب ينقلبون والعاقبة للمتقين. Oh Allah, we ask you by the status of Al-Hussein, Ya Allah, to accept our deeds, O Allah, to protect our beloved ones, Ya Allah. O Allah, please answer our prayers, Ya Allah, and for the ill ones, please let us all recite the holy verse all together. أَمَّا يُجِيبُ الْمُضْطَرَّ إِذَا دَعَاهُ وَيَكْشِفُ السُّوءَ 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 أَمَّا يُجِيبُ الْمُضْطَرَّ إِذَا دَعَاهُ وَيَكْشِفُ السُّوءَ. يا الله 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 يا الله. Oh Allah, we ask you by the status of Hussein, Ya Allah, please cure our ill ones, Ya Allah, and for the soul of our marhumin and the marhumin of the believers, especially the marhumin of those who organized this majlis today, please recite Al-Fatiha preceded by Salawat ala Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad.